I am grateful and pleased to follow the Right Honourable Lady, I believe now, for Kingston upon Hull. Should be on the ISC, I believe, Mr Chairman. Sort that out. It is a pleasure to follow her, and I have to say she is right to highlight new clause 8 by the Honourable Lady for Walthamstow. I have to say that is the first time there has been appropriate consideration given to those issues in any of our contributions on this bill. The Minister knows that I am supportive of the general thrust of this bill. He knows I am supportive of the provisions within it. I heard him very clearly indicate what the Children's Act and indeed some of the other standards that need to be adhered when considering children through the prism of this proposed legislation. But I do think that there are sincere and serious points that the Honourable Lady for Walthamstow made, and I hope he can reflect on those further. And in fairness, given the amount of time, Madam Deputy Speaker, left in this debate and the contribution I can make, I think it is right that the Minister has more time to respond to the issues raised, that he does so comprehensively. I think there have been fair points made throughout this debate, even with amendments that I ultimately may not back. But I think when we consider issues around trade unionism, around blacklisting, my reading of the bill, the guidance and the authorisation process is there is no fear around those issues. But there is clearly an apprehension of fear amongst those who have proposed amendments in that regard, and I do hope the Minister will deal with them comprehensively. On new clause 3, I have indicated my assent and support to that, and I think the Minister is probably minded to accept. I think that would be, I hope I'm not going too far in suggesting that the Minister should accept new clause 3 from the Intelligence and Security Committee, and I ask that he does. If I could ask anything from his response, it would be these two issues. First of all, there has been a discussion or consideration around the Human Rights Act. And I think, in fairness to the Honourable Member for Liverpool Walton, he did say, look, that only allows for retrospective accountability on the part of the state. But to my mind, it would be wholly unlawful for anybody involved in the authorisation process to authorise something which naturally falls foul of the Human Rights Act. They could not do it. They don't have the varies to allow for it. In terms of torture, torture is not permissible in any circumstance. It is against our Human Rights Act. It is against international frameworks. It cannot be allowed. It is an absolute right, and it's an absolute right. And I think it is clear that there should be no and cannot be any authorisation given on that basis. Sexual crime, I would like the Minister to talk about more particularly. I still believe that is something that should not be and could not be authorised. And I do find that some of the amendments, because they have a total list of these issues, are unhelpfully drafted, because I think each and every one of the aspects contained within the amendment, and particularly I'm thinking of Amendment 13, means that it is unsupportable from my mind. There's a world of difference between causing loss of life or serious bodily injury and murder. It's a nuanced legal difference, but there is a world of difference between the two. And there are circumstances in which, regrettably, life is lost. And there are circumstances in which it is legitimate for the state to remove life. And I do not say that to be controversial. That is a part of our human rights framework that is provided for in our human rights legislation. There is a distinction between the two, and I think amendments that group all of these issues together are unhelpful in what are individually important issues, Madam Deputy Speaker, Dame Rosie, and we should have the opportunity to engage with them individually and independently of one another. So I would be grateful to hear from the Minister on those issues. I will draw my march to a close, but I do have to say that this process, with 2 hours, 20 minutes of debate for committee stage, is wholly unsatisfactory. These issues are much too important to be left to 2 hours and 20 minutes of a debate.